right.
Kind of takes the anxiety to start.
Well, here we are. We're
Here
starting. Yeah. And it is good evening. It is evening at this time of this filming.
It is evening
But-
when we're recording this.
Yeah, we're not editing that out. This is how we're
Cut
rolling,
that.
baby.
It's late,
This is how
actually.
we're rolling.
Yeah.
This is it. No, I'm really excited to be here with you guys and have the agenda that we have tonight is a good one. It's a really amazing opportunity for Chad Apsey here is with us to tell his story, and he's got a heck of a story and what the Lord's done for him. And so just super thankful to just to have all of you guys here with us so we can get this out, and it's a powerful testimony, and that's what you're. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous, but
Yeah.
that's to be expected.
Yeah, we were just hanging out.
Were you
But-
saying that you got something in your eye today
Yeah,
at work?
I did. Yeah, I had
Really?
some stuff fall from the ceiling in my right eye, but
Ugh. Are
Yeah.
you doing good now, though?
doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. You just got to
I
talk.
can
You don't
see
got to
good.
see.
I can see good.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. So you've been through quite a bit in the last 2 years,
Yes.
and where do we pick up? Do we pick up in 2010? Where do you think a good place to start?
We can start in 2010.
Yeah.
2010 was a big year for my family and I. That was a year where a church was formed from a Bible study in my own my house living room, and from there it went on. It was so successful, if you will, of a Bible study that it grew in member, it grew in number, and it grew in like hype. And it was in short order. We knew that my pastor friend and I knew that we had to do something different, a
You
different
had some
venue.
real momentum going.
Some real momentum
Yeah.
going, and the goal from the get-go was a church plant. Anyways, that was the goal from the get-go.
Okay. So this is all part of the vision.
All
that
part
you
of the
guys
vision.
stepped
Him and I
into.
had shared, and really having no idea it would take off as fast as it did.
Yeah.
So anybody that's ever been involved in church planting, I wasn't around when this new building was built and renovated, but I know that there are people that can share in the reality that a lot of times there's a lot of work for few hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably very true in most church cultures, most church circles,
Yeah.
most churches.
Yeah.
I think the number I once heard was 20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Yeah.
And so I fell into that 20% right away. In fact, it was more like just a couple of us. And so I'm sharing all this backdrop because I think it's important to my story.
Yeah.
Ministry has to be focused on Jesus and Jesus alone.
Yeah.
And I will say from the start of the whole thing, there was some kind of motivation brewing in me, maybe a pre-Judas moment already happening where I was seeing myself, my name in lights. I was seeing myself as a person of fame, big ministry.
Because you were
big
part of this thing
money
from the get-go.
from the get-go.
Important
And-
figure, getting a lot of
Yeah,
attention.
and I something I didn't know I needed at the time.
Yeah.
But I would soon discover that my whole life I was needing that, and so ministry became a pretty good fit.
Now, when you
for
say,
that.
I just want to hit on that. So when you say needing that, are you talking about kind of affirmation?
Yes.
Or, you're needing that father, probably a fatherly
It is
type
it
of
is.
tension?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the affirmation and accolades, things that I knew would come with stature in a church and
Sure.
importance,
Like
titles.
basically like being respected
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was something I knew. I know now that I was seeking that in secular work. I was seeking
Sure.
that in other church ministries, and I didn't know that at the time. And but it's important to kind of hone in on that, on the fact that there was just a few of us doing so much work to
Yeah.
get this ministry up and going. And so a year after the Bible study started,
In your living room.
in my living room,
Yeah.
we were able to buy a church.
Wow.
We had enough funding from the people who attended that we could literally put a down payment on a building.
Wow.
And so
That's
we bought
crazy.
the Methodist Church in Eagle, Michigan. We were able to purchase that in less than a year's time. And so it was a huge step, but it was a Methodist church, and the old school Methodist church. I mean, it was not the look that we were going for, and so renovations began immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty skilled in that area now. At the time, I really wasn't that skilled, but I was willing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my pastor friend and I, we began to take on those projects ourselves. And once in a while, we would get a hand from other people. But
So you at this point you're in your living room for a year as a church plant. You're moving into this new building in Eagle, Michigan, and you are working full time.
Yeah.
Outside of the church in a secular environment, and you are a pivotal leader in this church, spiritual leader, and you are fully involved in the renovations in the church.
Yeah. So
how'd you have time for all that?
Well, so what my week would look like, I was working at a company called Neogen Corporation doing manufacturing maintenance. That's in downtown Lansing. And so most nights of the week, I would complete my day shift, and then I would drive right to the church building. Yeah. A lot of times I'd stop to MPC Cashaway Lumber on Grand River, grab materials. My friend and I, we had the plan. We knew what we were doing. Sometimes he would already be there, and we would just be working on the church, working on renovations from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I'd come home and I'd do that cycle all over again.
Now you're married at this time.
Yeah.
Did you have kids at this time?
I had all 3 of my children at this time.
Okay, so I'm
and young,
like
all young children. Yeah.
I just got married, so like my natural I guess question is like, how was that affecting, the at-home life? You're working day shift and then working till 9.
Were they coming to church to help with them when you'd go there? Did they meet you there and help too? Or?
No, my wife pretty much took care of our home and our kids, so that I could be doing what I. She submitted that in that area for me to do what I was doing, because she believed in the vision too, and at the time it wasn't. She wasn't vocalizing how exhausting it was for her, even though I know it was starting to wear. I was just blind to it.
Yeah. You guys saw it as a sacrifice you were both willing to make.
Yeah.
You were united in that.
Thought it was the noble thing to do. It's kingdom business, and and so there is some nobility to it for sure. And there's room for it in our lives, but it can't be every egg in that basket. And that's what it became for me really quick.
Yeah.
And not only was it just the renovations of the new building, but it was also ministering of people that were a lot of the people that started coming and seeing and checking things out were very wayward people, lost people, and then a whole lot of really religious, de-churched people, or people that were just fat on everything and like, oh, this is a new idea, this grace thing is catchy. This hyper grace idea was so catchy that it was a really easy message to minister to people, and it was like fresh always to them. And so a lot of people from more denominational like churches came to check us out. So with that became discipleship and book studies and Bible studies and all these different things. And there wasn't a lot of people versed in what we were in the gospel, what we were teaching. There wasn't a lot of people that were able to do, to lead or to disciple. And so that became yet another thing to add to the.
How much of that?
Mix.
How much of that were you leading? Was all on your plate?
All
the studies.
So I was doing. There was a discipleship group called the Fight Club, very cool program, and so I was doing the Fight Club with 2 guys, and so that was 2 different nights of the week. So that also took place instead of renovating. So it was like a compromise. Yeah. There was nothing not ministry related going on throughout the week. Everything throughout my week was ministry related at some point. And we tried to implement worship in our services as quick as we could.
And you were doing Sunday services?
I was doing, all I know how to do is play drums, but I know people from different churches. And so it was kind of on my plate to acquire people who maybe were not serving currently.
Get a team together.
Going.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was the same people that would come and help, and sometimes it was a struggle just to find, and sometimes it was just piano and a drum set. It was just whatever we could do. And,
so you're working dawn till dusk,
Yeah.
past dusk every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
doing ministry throughout the week,
Yeah.
and then Sundays.
Yeah. And I was doing my correspondence Bible school like at 4 a.m., waking up early so that I could
So
try
you're
to.
getting no rest.
No rest.
No family
definitely
time.
running on E. No family time.
Yeah.
Here's where the enemy uses this as a playground. In short order, I began to be so callous to this, so callous to being away from my family, that it didn't even bother me anymore. I hate to say that, and it sounds terrible, but it got to the point where it was kind of easy just being away. Like I'm ducking all my responsibilities at home because I know my wife can take care of it.
Yeah.
How long was that season?
That season was, I would have to say, probably about a year and a half.
Wow.
Before I became ordained and actually started working for the church full time.
Okay.
Which made things a whole lot easier.
I was gonna say, how did that change things when you quit your secular job and you're working in the office?
And that was something that was prayerfully considered. At the same time, it was something that I was really pressing and striving for. So was my wife. Like, here's a chance now to be on the clock, on the church clock.
Yeah.
You know, and so even if I'm at church all day, I'm not spread out so bad.
So
there's time for it.
Were you and your wife having the conversations like, if we can just make it to you're on staff and you're ordained, like that was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, okay. And there was a few opportunities along the way where I could have done like some intern type things, and I could have, but financially that just wasn't possible. I had to go full church budget, which still was nowhere near what I was making, but it afforded me more time to do the things that needed to be done. There was still renovations taking place.
Sure.
By the time I was full time at the church, there were more people on board that could, help with maintenance in the building, and there were more people now discipling and stuff like that. So my schedule slowed down a lot once I got into the church, into full time ministry. So what my title looked like at that point was I was spending every day of the week in the office. So at that point, as an ordained youth minister, I was, preparing for messages, still doing multiple Bible studies, preparing for those, still doing the discipleship thing. A couple years into it, we had more of a worship team. So
how was your home life as you eased into the office and in the full-time ministry and working on staff at the church? How did that affect the home life? Did it get better?
It calmed down.
Yeah.
But then, it's easy to say that we trust God with our finances, and that was really a lot of the things. One of the things I was really trying to drive home in people is to trust God with our finances.
Sure.
Philippians 4:19.
Yep.
I don't know if I really believed it at that point, but I could sell it.
Sure.
And
you were being put to the test.
I was being put to the test, and in my mind, I'm such a man of faith that I can handle it, but my wife doing the bills, she was starting to see pretty quick that, okay, this maybe wasn't the best choice. So that brought honest trust to her that wasn't present before.
It's a message that sounds great from behind a pulpit, but doesn't sound the same at a grocery store.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was looking for some Jesus man.
Yeah.
So something strange began to happen in me, though, in my heart, that I didn't see coming and that I didn't tell anybody about. I didn't even tell my wife about it. But it happened pretty quickly in that this emptiness, this hollowness, this unfulfilling sensation would overwhelm me throughout most of the day. I was busy at the church, but I wasn't using my hands anymore, and I felt like something had been removed from me. Should have got some water.
I can go grab you some.
Can you do that?
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
So you're not working with your hands anymore, and now you're something's missing.
Yeah, I'm being a pastor now. Like I'm doing the
The dream.
The dream.
The dream.
This is what I wanted. This is exactly what I signed up for. There's a title in front of my name. I mean, all everything that I was pressing for and dreaming of, and it was all coming into fruition.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, it actually it pits my stomach now talking about it, and then it just made me feel like a very shell of a man, if you would, like my soul was gone.
Right.
What God had designed me to do with my hands, I was no longer doing that, and so.
Yeah.
But you had gained the significance that you were looking for. Because
yes.
you were looking for significance.
I was.
And
Really
so,
was chasing that.
And so that was there.
Yeah.
So you're like confused then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so almost like a midlife crisis started to form in me. I feel lost in a sense, and I'm in a position where I'm not supposed to feel lost. I'm supposed to help others who are lost or feel lost. And so now I'm at a point where it's fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I was too much of a coward to tell anybody that that I was feeling that way, and even my wife. Thank you. Even she didn't know that I was feeling that way. And I don't even know if then I could have put words to what I was feeling.
Because you're afraid to be that honest with yourself.
Yeah,
too,
and what's turning back? How do I turn back from this?
Right.
There's no turning back.
Yep.
I would have to admit that I made a mistake or I got ahead of God.
Right.
So yeah, you get your dream, and when your dream comes true, doesn't feel like a dream. Doesn't feel like the dream felt was supposed to feel.
Yeah, nothing.
Did you
like,
and you said you kind of implied, I think, that you started to realize that like in that season, but you weren't sure what to do with it. Is that kind of
Yeah, I mean, like I said, how do I bow out of this now?
Yeah.
I'm committed.
all these
I'm
kingdom
in.
responsibilities that you've signed up for and plates that you're spinning, multiple, and how do you just give it up? Well, and another thing is sometimes you don't know, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right.
And so you're stepping into the season and you're like, well, it's hard. Yeah, church plant's hard. I imagine you're working double. I think most people probably work a secular job and work overtime and double time and all these hours, and then you made it. It seems on the surface, it seems like how it's supposed to go, and then you get this office job and it's hard and it's hard. The transition's hard. And am I just, I'm why am I missing this thing? Is it just because it's familiar and I need to move on and completely let go and move forward to God's calling for me? So, I think we all can probably relate to some of those battles in transitional periods, when things get hard. So,
can I ask something? Just, I'm being a youth pastor now.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate on some levels with the struggle of like, man, this role isn't always as all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Not that it's cracked up to be like the greatest thing ever, but I think there's definitely those struggles that like you can't really understand until you're really doing it.
Yeah.
But the thing I always use as like my gauge is, am I encountering the Lord in the secret place? So that's kind of like my question. How is your relationship with Jesus just as a Christian? Like, forget the pastor, forget the church role. How is your relationship in that season with him, just as, Jesus and Chad?
I mean, that's an easy answer for me. It was it was about, Jesus said, depart from me, I never knew you. It really, my claim could have been, I've done these works in your name.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know you. And that is so true. I knew the teaching. I knew how to minister. I knew how to engage with people. All that came pretty easy. So basically, I was ministering from an empty cup. I was going on my own strength. I was destined to fail because of it. So to answer your question, I was not in communion with Jesus, really in any aspect. Just going through the motions, doing the stuff.
Sure.
And in a lot of cases, doing it pretty well.
Yeah.
But was doing it on my own strength.
Professional Christian.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
at the time,
plain church, honestly.
Plain church.
It's scary because that's a scary
That's
scripture
it.
for one.
It's
sobering scripture.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to get caught up in busyness because there is so much to do.
Yeah.
There is so much to do. And like you said, there's usually not enough hands to get it all done.
Yeah.
And so I bend that way. Like, I've been towards being busy, just too busy all the time.
The Martha criticizing the Mary.
absolutely,
for
I
quote unquote wasting
and
time.
I say it all the time. I'm usually parked in Martha's camp. I'm a better Mary today because I'm older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I could say the same thing.
Sure.
I love
Yeah.
that. I'm going to use that, actually.
And
yeah.
the reality is, like, there truly is always work to do.
Yeah.
Like ministry, the kingdom,
Yeah.
like
It doesn't stop.
never stops.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to like forget and start to feel guilty for
Yeah.
taking Sabbath and taking like I need to invest in my relationship with the Lord and my family and
Yeah.
so anyway, I just
But for you, you weren't there.
I wasn't
And
there.
so,
No. I
you-
convinced my pastor friend that I was there. Because
Right.
he was
Oh, yeah.
he was awesome about shepherding me, and I just wasn't honest. Like I couldn't be honest. I couldn't let him see what I wasn't. You know what I mean? It was just it was a mask that I had I probably really always worn, and I think I wore it even better in church.
What would have been the best in hindsight in this moment we're in right now? You're the youth pastor at this point we're talking about, and are you still leading other small groups, and you're still doing all those things.
Yeah.
What is the best thing for you to do right now if you could go back and tell Chad to do this thing? This is the right thing to do right now. Is it just to tell your lead pastor, hey, look, help me through this season because I'm struggling, I'm too busy, my relationship with God, blah, blah, blah. What is that?
What you just said.
Okay.
To come clean for one.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't have
Just
it all
be
figured
honest.
out.
Yeah.
I'm
Get it
not,
out in
I'm
the
not all
light.
I'm cracked up to be.
Yeah.
I haven't been real with you. This is the honest truth. That's a great question.
I think
And it's easy to answer now.
Yeah, right. Of
Hindsight,
course,
yeah.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
think we all find
Hindsight's
that
20/20.
none of us are cracked up to what we think what we are. We're not cracked up to
Yeah.
anything when we lose our intimacy with Him in the secret place. When we
Yeah.
stop being Mary, we will find ourselves doing the job and falling short and knowing we're not cracked up to be.
In line with that question, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you could get in a time machine, get in the DeLorean, go back, and maybe not tell yourself something, but if you could tell your senior pastor something about how to help you,
Good question.
what would that thing be?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is learn how to use the word no and explain why I can't do this thing, or I need this time with my family. I'm drawing this boundary
Yeah.
because I believe even as an employee in the church, we still have a right to have some boundaries. And I think if a seasoned pastor recognizes that and wants that and probably demands that, I'm sure it's the culture here. Like, you're going to have some time off, spend some time with your family.
Yeah.
And so I think I've lost your question already, but
Yeah, I was my question's more of like if it were possible to like Chad in 2025, if he could go back and talk to what was your lead pastor's, or if you don't want to share his name,
I can
that's
say
okay.
I don't know how public this is going, but his name is Phil, Pastor Phil.
Okay, if you could talk to Pastor Phil in that season and be like, you need give him advice on how to pastor you then.
Yeah.
Like what do you think you would tell him, or was it just one of those things that like you had to be honest and there's really no way he could ever have done anything different or anything better?
Yeah, I think that's it. If I was just being honest in general, he probably would have stewarded to that. He would have catered to that. I know he would have. I know his heart.
Yeah.
His heart wasn't to destroy Chad Apsey or push him as far as he can go
Yeah.
until he breaks or until his family falls apart or his marriage fails. It was never.
That wasn't his intention.
Yeah, absolutely not. And we're just trying to steward what God had given to us and manage everything the best that we could.
Yeah.
So he did everything, I think, in his power and in his experience that he knew to do. And so I think I would to go back and to tell him how to help me. I think I guess I'd first of all tell him that he was doing a great job with me. Like this was not his fault. This is not anything. I'm the one that can say no. I'm the one that can place boundaries. I'm the one that can dictate my time. And so I just let him run with that ship.
Yeah.
And he thought everything was okay. And so I don't know if there's anything I could say to him that would make him
There
do
was
things
no other
different.
reason for him to believe differently.
No,
that you weren't
no.
healthy.
I was so good at masking
Yeah.
pain, disappointments, jealousies, insecurities were big for me there.
Yeah.
He was an amazing minister, great communicator, very, very magnetic, and
Sure.
I kind of coveted his gift.
Mm.
Well, kind of, I did. And so that was a whole nother insecurity in itself. And so if I could have been like anybody in that moment in time, I wanted to be like Phil.
Yeah.
And I think people that know my story, that are from the church, probably look back and say, yeah, Chad was really striving to be that right-hand man. He wanted to, and I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think that really
That's
does.
really good. Yeah.
But-
Because I think it's easy, and I think I've been in, and I'm sure you guys can relate to. It's easy to look at like leaders, in hindsight, and be like, man, if my leader would have just done this differently, or if he would have just led me like
Right.
this,
Yeah.
then maybe things would have been there. And I think it's really necessary for us to like arrive at the conclusion that
Yeah.
you're arriving at. Like, this is not on anybody else
Yeah.
but me.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Like in so many topics, there's a tension because like real life, like I see you guys day to day. I'm just like, Jason's fine, he's fine. I mean, I know that he's not in it. Like we're weak in areas, we're struggling in certain areas, but like
Sure.
overall, I don't know if he's really going through it unless he's like, hey,
You would
dude,
know.
we gotta talk. We gotta talk. You tell me, right?
You would
But that's the thing. Like sometimes we can wear a mask and we can never reveal the thing. Ultimately, to your point, Pastor Noah, that it's our responsibility to bring the thing to light and stop lying to ourselves. Like which is real easy. I got this. See, day after day, I got this. I got this. And at a certain
But
point,
it's
it's
the
like,
fear.
hey,
right?
man, yeah.
We're afraid.
yeah.
We're afraid that
Yeah.
if we're really honest,
Mhm.
if we come to Pastor Phil,
Mhm.
Pastor Phil, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey,
Yeah.
man, I'm struggling. My family's struggling. I'm dealing with sin in my life. I can barely hold it together. If you start being that vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh, I'm going to be taken out of ministry.
Yep.
They're going to see me as I can't cut it.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything in you is telling you that, like, this is how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, the kingdom's opposite,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In reality, we
Yeah.
do that, and it's our greatest fear. And
Yeah,
then
it
we're
is.
met with overwhelming
Yeah.
Grace
and
usually,
love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
And that's a
It's-
wonderful point. And I would have been met with that. There's no
Yeah.
doubt had I come
and
clean.
maybe you would have been like, kind of on a forced leave, but that was probably what you needed.
that would have that'd have been a
at
game
that
changer
point.
completely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
So-
you make a great
Yeah.
point. If I could have been vulnerable and transparent, so I was a hypocrite, like literally ministering to guys, letting them be vulnerable with me at the same time. Chad's got it all together,
Yeah.
and I could not let anybody see that there was anything in me. And the reason for that is because I enjoyed them coming to me continually. I loved the phone calls. I loved all that because I had an S on my chest. I felt
Yeah.
super important
Significant.
and significant, and I was just eating it up. And so I mentioned in my notes what I come to discover, or I put a name to it. It's a Messiah complex.
Yeah.
And really, I wasn't leading people to Christ. I was leading people to Chad. I had the answers for them, whether it was from the Word or whether it was from something I manufactured. I had the answers for them.
Did you kind of know it at that point? Is there like did you kind of know that was the way it was then, or?
I think I was so callous to it and
Okay.
got so used to doing it, playing church really for so many years
Yeah.
that it kind of was normal for me. It was normal to hide behind a church mask. It
Yeah.
was normal to not be vulnerable to anybody. I've never been vulnerable to anybody. Never a pastor, never my wife.
Yeah.
Like the one person that I should be vulnerable with is my wife, and never been that person for her. Until now. But
So you're in this place, in this season that we've been talking about. You're a youth pastor, not vulnerable. You're missing the secular workplace. Something is missing in your life, but you're playing this role wholeheartedly, and so things start to fall apart. do you want to? How do we segue into what was there festering? What was there under the surface that because it wasn't brought to light, it started to rise to the surface and things started to happen?
Okay, well, so sin issues, sin will take you farther than you ever plan on going. And I know a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
The biggest sin, besides being a liar, the biggest sin that I was dealing with was pornography, lust. That is something that many men have come clean to me about it, and I just could not share in that. Like, it was so bad where, like, I don't even understand. Just stop, and I couldn't really give any answers other than God can deliver you or throw some scripture at it, But the hypocrisy is I was dealing with it myself, and it was a release from the insecurity, from the stress, and I've always dealt with that. From 11 years of age, I was looking at pornography. I would find ways to obtain it. And so I had never confessed that sin to anybody. I never repented for that sin. I never even asked for forgiveness for that sin. It just became a part of my life. And the more I got involved in church, I will say that I thought maybe it would just kind of fall off and I wouldn't have to even disclose that ever. I could just shut the door and no one would ever know that Chad Apsey ever dealt with that kind of thing. Yeah. And that was my hope. I really thought that, ministry would take me there, but
ministry can't save you.
It can't save you.
Or even marriage.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jesus does not operate that way.
Sorry, I'm asking another question here because, so your stress from planting the church was affecting your family life and your relationship with your wife, and then getting the office, it helped a little bit. Being in the office helped with the family life some. Yeah. But with this particular issue, how do you think, in hindsight now, how do you think that affected your affection for your wife, your how you looked at your wife? How would you speak to that?
So I had been distant from my wife because of the busyness, and that's kind of been a pattern throughout my 25 years of marriage anyway, between work and side work and something other than being in the home. And I never ducked my responsibilities per se as far as taking care of things in the house, but the one-on-one time with my wife has always been starving. It's always been, it's never been in the buffet, honestly. And so carrying out a marriage that way and never investing into it is doomed for failure anyway. Yeah. And then when I began to be so busy that it just wasn't even a thought. And so my eyes weren't on my family. They weren't on my wife. My eyes were on ministry, which really was all about, like I said, the accolades. So it was all selfish. It was all self-motivated. And so my sin played a huge part in that, because now you have somebody who is not making time for his wife, not making time for his family, not investing into her in any way unless she plans something for us. I was not going to do that. Yeah. And so I basically was just a partner, really, friends with benefits. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's what it kind of was. Yeah. And so it's no wonder that with my eyes already off my wife, and then with my eyes, lusting after women in magazines and videos and movies and stuff like that, I didn't see her differently. Yeah. I just didn't see her. Okay. That's the thing. I just didn't see her. Wow. And so pornography became a tool that Satan would use to lure me into the trap, which is the reason that we are here today. The reason we're here today is to not only to share testimony, but I kind of want to unpack a little bit of the dirt without going into a lot of detail. But with my eyes removed from my wife and knee deep in sin and completely self-absorbed, I began to gain the attention of one of my students, one of my youth female students, who was had trouble in the home and had trouble with the dad, and so Pastor Chad became a go-to. At first, it was I had the answers. I had the Bible answers. I had the respected adult figure And I was that for her for several months. But something began to shift. And that father figure that I was no longer the father figure, but a crush. She saw security in me, obviously, was the biggest thing that she saw. Some attraction, I'm sure, whatever it may be. She was obsessed with me. And I began to see it, and others began to see it. Some leaders began to see it.
Yeah.
Well, what would they say to you? Did they just?
No one
"Hey, man."
said anything to me directly. It was actually brought to Pastor Phil's attention at one time. We had to sit down, and I did what I did best at that time, and I completely lied and act like I had no idea what he was talking about. Kind of played it off like it's cute, whatever, big deal. Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
Like it's not affecting me.
it's
at
not
all.
affecting me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can't affect me. I'm strong and so
Superman.
yeah,
Yeah.
Superman.
Yeah.
So that said, I was definitely warned. It wasn't like there was a lack of warning, and so I knew that this was leading to some more dangerous ground. But for some reason, because of where my heart was at, I liked the attention. I already was loving the attention I was getting anyway. So to get this attention from a younger female, instead of the boys in a youth group, she liked me.
Yeah.
So as a 38-year-old male, I'm thinking, wow, I still got it.
Stroking your ego.
I still got it, man. I know I look good to her,
Yeah.
and I'm what she wants in her life. And for some reason,
Yeah.
even though my wife could have articulated that every single night, it wouldn't hit the same as it hit with her. And I think it's because it's the forbidden, it's the new, it's the strange, it's the and that's what
taboo.
sin
Yeah.
and taboo, and that's what sin
Yeah.
does. It makes that forbidden look really good.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
apple,
Absolutely.
and so that was a bait that I would soon take a bite of. And long story short, the flirtations and the inappropriate text messaging, it morphed into some contact,
Yeah.
and that contact was felonious right off the bat, and it was something that I don't remember even feeling shameful about it at the time. Like I was so callous, so dark in my heart, such a bad place that I could have justified it 10 ways to Sunday, and worse. I knew that I could keep it a secret. If she could keep it a secret, no one has to know,
Wow.
and we could continue as long as we want, kind of thing.
Wow.
And unfortunately, it did continue a few times.
Yeah.
And
Was there ever a moment, maybe just before that started or in the midst of it where you felt like I need to pull the ripcord, like I need to put this in the light, or like you said, was it just like, no, I'll just get away with this?
it was, I'll get away with this, and I needed to stop, and I had to stop, and so, but I didn't have the strength to stop. I didn't have the strength to reject her in that regard. Like, and it's not about her. It wasn't even about hurting her feelings. I was loving the sin for whatever reason. It was a gratification that I'd never experienced, and I don't know if it's because I felt like I was 16 years old again. It's really hard to put words to what I was feeling, but I knew it had to stop. To be honest with you, I knew it was illegal, but I didn't care because I was so invisible that I thought this would just never come out. It was one of those things I could suppress for the rest of my life, and I would never carry any shame, any guilt. I can cut it off whenever I want, and we're going to be good.
So what was the first? So it carried on for a little bit.
Yeah.
Some short amount of time, would you say?
A couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah.
And then what was when did it first start? The door kind of start to open where light starts to was there a question? Was there a comment? Was there a person that said, what? How did that come to light?
This is how the grace of God worked in this story. This is one of the most pivotal and crucial moments in my entire story, because I was texting her so heavily and so inappropriately. I got masterful at delete. it was my custom to reach out to her in the morning before going to school.
Did you send the text to the
I
wrong
sent
person?
the text to my wife.
Ooh.
My heart sunk.
Ooh.
I knew I was hit. I knew
But
I was
that
hit.
was it.
There was no getting out of this one. I knew
Yeah.
I was hit. And unfortunately, thank God that it happened. And I was on the way to work when it happened. I was on my way to church, to the office.
Yeah.
And so I turned the car around. I couldn't unsend it. I tried
Before
to
you-
I tried
before
to
you-
explain it away.
Before you even got a response, you turned the car around.
I turned the car around.
You're like, it's
like
over.
I got to go home. I got to cover my tracks. I got to explain myself.
Yeah.
And so in a path of lying, I once again lied to my wife and told her that it's just inappropriate texting. That's all that's ever happened. There was no proof. I had eliminated everything. She deleted everything. There was no proof of anything that had gone on other than, why are you sending like sweetheart type text messages to a girl from your youth group? And so in Chad fashion, I was able to manufacture a pretty good story. At the same time, it was too much for her to not come forward about it. Thank God. And so the first call she made was Pastor Phil. And so at that point,
This is your wife.
this is my
Okay.
wife. I come home to a crying, destroyed, on the floor wife. Long story short, talking with the board, I was on a administrative leave for a while. No one knew that I had any contact. I denied it, deny. We didn't do anything. It didn't morph into anything. It was just texting. And so at that point, there was no like super legal
Right.
things that.
Did it? Was the legal aspect of it the thing that was like, I will never fully come
Oh,
clean
absolutely.
on
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because after that, the reality of what I had done actually became fully exposed in my mind. Like, man, wow, this really just happened.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
now, how do I live with this? How do I move on from this? And how do I continue to bury this dark secret? And so we end up leaving the church. Long story short, we end up leaving the church. It was too much to be around her. It was too much to be around the family. It was too much to be around other people that knew. We got prayed out. We had prayerful exit from the church, and it's just no place my wife could be. It was just too painful. And to see her tore her apart. So that's when we found Restore. In 2015, that's when we found Restore. My parents were already coming here. So I went back to secular work, actually the place that I'd quit, and they took me on as like a contract help. And so for the next few months, I am now fully aware of what I've done, fully aware of what I'm hiding, and now trying to live a life, getting back on my feet with my wife, trying to repair things because they were already super damaged. An emotional affair is what she thought I had, and that was just as bad as anything for her. Yeah. And so now I'm trying to, not only am I watching over my shoulder every minute for the cops to come down my driveway, I'm waiting for that phone call because I know
this other shoe is dropping.
This other shoe is going to drop. She is a teenage girl. She's not going to keep this a secret. If she's not going to tell her friends, she's going to tell somebody. And by the grace of God, she told the person that she should have told, and that was her mother. And then her mother called the church, and then it wasn't long after I got a phone call from Clinton County Sheriff and to come in. We got some charges. We got to talk about this, and it was that night. And even then, I tried to lie my way out of it to the cops.
So you were at Restore at this point?
Yes.
So how much of a recovery had your marriage made up to that moment?
On my end, superficial. Jamie had no idea that I had this giant secret. She had no idea. So if she assumed, I don't to this day know. For me, any little bit that any ground she gave me, I was eating it up. Like, okay, she's forgiven me. She's coming around. She's coming around. I'm just faking it till I make it. That's really all I'm doing. I'm trying to pretend that I really.
You just tell her what you think she wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the while knowing in the back of your head, this shoe is coming.
It's coming. And
you kind of are like, I'm gonna have to do this again.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the sheriff's department, and you're lying to them, saying nothing physical.
Yeah, nothing physical happened. It's just, it's just hand holding stuff. It was nothing crazy. and I didn't know at the time that police could see a cloud of text messages. I had no idea. So they had everything already. So they already knew I was done.
Yeah.
And they just had to get my confession. And I didn't lawyer up. I didn't anything. I'm like, you know what? Started to feel this sense of peace just already coming over me.
Sure.
Like, I've got to get this
Confession.
out.
Like
I'm
I'm letting it go.
I got to let it go. And so I just threw up on the cop. And it was that night I got arrested. I sat 3 days in jail. And I don't want to share much of my wife's end of it because I know she's told some of this, but she was at work when she got the phone call from the sheriff's office, in between clients at her massage therapy job, and I don't know about many of the moments. It's a lot of it's vague to me, but I know Pastor John came to her rescue. Pastor Lisa came to her rescue, and
Yeah. I can't imagine.
and when I got locked up, that's all I could think about.
Yeah.
How did I just do this again to her? Like, why couldn't I come clean the first time?
Yeah.
I just had to keep on stuffing it down, thinking that maybe, just maybe, by the grace of God, I'll get away with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's not God's grace. That's not His mercy. Not at all. For me to get away with that is not God. In my mind, I was trying to pray this thing away,
Yeah.
and it's not happening. God's grace was getting busted and jailed.
Yeah.
It had to come out. And I can tell you that the peace that came over me from that, even though I was in jail for the first time, complete fish out of water, scared out of my mind, I can tell you that the peace that came over me is a peace like I've I've never felt in my life.
Wow.
Right.
Probably one of the greatest the greatest days of my life was getting busted,
Yeah.
because I can't imagine
Because you
today
knew it was
relief.
over.
the relief, the pressure, the anxiety that I was carrying. I look back, I don't know how I carried it as long as I did. I really don't. And it's just a wonder that I didn't have stomach problems. And my wife will attest that I was an angry person. I became an angry during my sin, and even afterwards. There was a difference in my temperament that she knew was off. So deep down, I think she knew there might have been more. I don't think she wanted to fish for it.
Right.
I think if you were to ask her, she would say, I think he's going to eventually just come clean with this.
Yeah.
But me knowing that if I do come clean, I know what it means.
Yeah.
I know it means that this is legal.
Yeah.
This isn't just an affair. This isn't just, I cheated on my wife or I sinned. This is legal.
Right.
And so that's a whole nother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
an affair is one thing, but then do something illegal too.
Right.
Like this is a whole nother storm, a whole nother avalanche that
What
We
was
gotta try to
what was
weather.
your first contact with your wife? You're in the jail for 3 days, you said,
yeah.
and then out on bond or
Yep,
what?
out on bond.
And you go home
Went to my
and
parents' house.
went to your parents'
Yep,
house.
yeah.
Okay.
She didn't want to talk to me. She,
Okay.
in fact, was so hurt that she told my parents to leave me there, and I don't blame her.
Yeah.
But they on their son, they bailed me out, and
So then trials coming up. How long before that? Was it months? So you had to
several
wait.
months.
Okay.
I want to say upwards. It was 2000 March of 2016 when I became incarcerated. So
What was
we're talking 6 months.
what was your you and your wife, the state of your relationship when the trial began?
When the trial began, we had lots of time to try to repair and mend.
So you're talking
6 months.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were good. Like I knew, I didn't know that she had this number in her mind of how many years I could receive as a deciding factor is whether she's going to stay or not, and that was 3 years. And that's what I was given.
That's what she had determined.
She had determined
Sort of
and-
an
and
interval.
She even told Pastor Lisa, if he gets more than 3 years, I'm not sticking around. I can't.
Okay.
I can't do it. And by the
Wow.
grace of God, 3 years, 3 to 15 is what they give me. So she hung around. We were able to gain a lot of traction in our marriage in the 6 months after everything was
Okay.
out,
Before leading up to the trial.
before leading up to the trial. And
How was that? You get bailed. Your parents bail you out, and then how long is it before you're actually having a conversation with your wife?
It was a couple days, and it was actually her wanting to see me. I think she just wanted me to see her pain. I think she wanted me to know what she was going through. And I did want to see her, but there was so much shame.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to see her in the state. Like I have come to my senses that I literally destroyed my wife.
Yeah.
In the worst sense, hurt her in every way possible. How can I look her in the eye? How can I even? It's kind of like a Peter and Jesus moment where you will not wash my feet. Like,
Right.
I'm not worthy of this.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's where I was at with her. Like, I don't deserve anything from you.
Did you expect her to leave you?
I did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so did everybody in my family. And they give her permission. Like, we don't blame you. My sisters.
Did you ever in that period, in the 6-month period of waiting, and there's been a bomb dropped in your family, right? Did you ever become suicidal?
No, I didn't become suicidal, but I will say that on the way to the police station, when I got that call, knowing what I was inevitably going to face, I had the thought several times this would be much easier just to yank the wheel of this car, run it into a tree, and never have to face my demons, and that would be a win for me. That was my mindset. I confessed that to the cops, and that's actually why they locked me up that night, for my protection. Because if you're suicidal, it's automatic lockup. You're not going home.
Yeah.
So,
When was the first time that your wife articulated or communicated that she was to you that she was willing to stick around and stay in contact and work through this? And
it was the first week when I was bonded out, or when
Wow.
wow.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
it was pretty instantaneous that she had come to that.
What did that do for you? Did that give you a spark of hope, something to hold on to, or was there still so much shame and fear that you were just like, not impacted as you should have been, or like, how did you feel?
I
with-
was
in
very
that?
stoic to her.
Okay.
Because I did not feel worthy, and I'm glad I felt that way. I should have felt that way. I would be concerned if I didn't feel that way.
Mhm.
I think that was the first time that I ever felt vulnerable and humble, and like knew it.
Wow.
I needed to feel that way for her. I
So-
needed her to see that
Yeah.
I knew that I didn't deserve her, but she wasn't even looking for that. She was looking just for me to embrace her, because she wanted to show me her forgiveness through her embrace, and I all but rejected it. I know she wanted to let some steam out, rightly so, and she, there was some opportunities for that, and that was another thing that I'd never let anybody do before, is give me a piece of their mind, and I needed that from her, and I needed to see how much I hurt her, and but the feeling of shame and unworthiness was just really, really heavy on me, and I think because I expected her to leave, I didn't know how to handle her seeing
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
why are you here? Why would you stay with me?
Yeah, because that in it itself is like insane
Oh.
grace and mercy.
Oh yeah,
Like you probably didn't even know how to register that.
no, not at all, not at all.
Yeah.
When you went to prison, so you got 3 to 15 years. You were incarcerated in the UP,
Yeah,
somewhere.
Newberry, yep.
and so when you were leading up to that, you're carrying all this guilt, all this shame. What were your predominant stepping into the prison? What was the predominant feeling that you carried around with you? Because this is a new environment, So where was Chad in the first
Okay, well,
assimilation period
Okay,
in prison?
so I was not scared at this point, because I'd spent 21 days in Jackson quarantine, which is the intake of every inmate in the state. This is where you go first from county jail. So
Okay.
level 5, level 4, you name it, lifers.
Just everybody's in
There's
this
everybody.
place, yeah.
It's terrifying. And when you have a sex charge, it's really terrifying. My lawyer, my attorney told me, lie to people why you're there, and hopefully it
don't
takes.
find
Is that what you did?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm sure we've all heard the
Yeah.
stories of like sex offenders. Like
Oh, it's
the treatment.
It is
in
not
prison.
prison's not where you want to be when that's your label, that's your charge, and it doesn't even matter what level of it
Right.
is.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
So are you
it's
not?
just the label?
Are
Yeah.
you not as I'm just imagining here. You're not. Guilt and shame are now buried, maybe because of these new feelings of I'm in prison.
Yeah,
Okay, and now you're dealing with more upfront reality that
yeah.
Kinda
Not
like
new environment.
survive this.
Survival mode is kind of where is exactly how I would say it. I'm not worried about getting beat up. I'm worried about how am I going to get through these next few years without seeing my family. Only if they should come visit me. How am I going to? How are they going to grow up without dad in the home? All these things that I left behind, that I chose to leave behind. Those were the things I was feeling. So that was a very, very intense pain right off the rip, and nothing really could coax that other than just staying busy, keeping my mind busy, so that I wasn't thinking about them. I knew busy really well, and so part of my experience in church came in handy in that regard, because I knew that I was in a ministry ground. Like I knew there was going to be opportunities. I just knew it. I'd heard about it, and so I got plugged in right away.
Yep.
Guys telling me, okay, you can get involved in church and Bible study and prayer group and music and all.
So
these
just
different
everything you
things.
could, you got
Everything I
involved
could, I signed up for. Self-help, you name it. Weight pit, all that stuff. I mean, there's a waiting period for some of that stuff, but as quick as I could, I was kiting to get into these things.
Were you in leadership?
I became in leadership.
Okay, over
eventually,
time.
Yeah, over time.
Did it feel good, like, in a weird way, but like you're in prison and now like all this stuff is it's behind you, you've confessed, it's out there, and you get to like sit in a church service, albeit a prison church service, but you get to just like be there, and like I'm here, but I'm clean. Like, did that kind of feel good?
Oh, absolutely, and it definitely did. But there's an element to that too that I share. Though I knew that I was clean, everything was exposed in the open, and I knew there was talk going on at home. I didn't care what anybody thought about me at home, and I was able to kind of quench that, which was big for me because I always cared about what people thought about me. So getting rid of that was huge. But staying busy really helped kind of mask the pain and even kind of help medicate. But it was a positive busy. I mean, there was so many things that you could do positively that I had no idea that, it could be that much of a positive experience. The guilt of being able to enjoy being there was now the big thing.
You felt guilty for being able to enjoy being where you were in prison?
So much to where I'm like, don't send me money, don't let me suffer, let me,
Like you wanted to feel like more pain than what you were feeling.
Wanted to pay some penance, you think?
I think so. I wanted to carry more of that cross than what I actually was.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Because I knew what I deserved. And it wasn't at first, but it became that way because when I hear
significance, busyness, you went right back into it.
Right back into it. Oh yeah. Chad is known. My name is known now in the compound, and laying hands on the sick. I mean, watching God do. I mean, God did awesome things. I can write a book on the things I saw God do.
Yeah.
And someday I probably will.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Give us one. Give us not the super long story, but give us one if you can remember an awesome ministry, like somebody got healed.
So one of my favorite is DJ. DJ. His last name escapes me, and DJ is just like a nickname. It's a prison name.
Sure.
What it stood for, I don't even know. I knew the cat just
DJ,
loosely.
man.
I knew him loosely.
Yeah, it's DJ.
But he knew my friend Rob and I. He knew that we were walking the track and laying hands on people. He'd seen it and he'd heard some different things, and so he crossed our path one time and said, I've been dealing with asthma, and he had an inhaler, but all the treatment that he got at home, he wasn't getting in prison. And he was trying to exercise. He was trying to work out, and the asthma was really getting him. And I felt in my spirit that this asthma was demonic. Like there was something demonic going on that needed to be released so that he could breathe again. And I don't I don't always feel that way about. I don't always discern things when I pray for people. When I was
That's
praying
honest.
for people,
I
was.
appreciate that, actually.
I don't
yes.
always discern
Thank you,
things.
yeah.
A lot of times it's generic, and
Just, it is what it is. Yeah.
it is what it is. God will reveal if He wants to. In this particular case, He revealed that it was demonic, and there was some demonic oppression, maybe even a little bit of a possession going on. And I sensed that. I told my friend Rob, I said, we got to pray a little bit different. And I began to speak right to his body and curse the demon that I knew was there.
Yeah, just rebuking.
Rebuking. And, my friend Rob, he's praying in tongues. And next thing I know, he doubles over in pain. And I'm like, man, what just happened? You're supposed to, be better, not worse. And he violently vomits.
Wow.
And I kid you not, this vomit had this, and I've read about this, this sulfuric or just sulfur smell.
I've heard.
I don't know how to explain it other than sulfur.
Yeah.
It's a real nasty, hard water smell. Yeah. And he was surprised by that. Like, why does it smell like that? It didn't smell like vomit.
Yeah.
And it was clear, and it was and so that was cool, but scary at the same time.
Cause all of a sudden,
But
this whole the spiritual realm is that's very real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
very real.
Yeah.
That
It was everything
very
I'd read
real.
about. I'd read all kinds of.
Yeah.
I've read so many books in prison, and a lot of them were about demon possession. So.
So he vomits and he's better, or what?
Oh yeah. His inhaler
He's-
was pitched the following week, and he literally
Incredible.
was healed. God restored his.
See, and
his
I think
breath.
that's amazing. And you have so many more stories that you said you
There's a
may
lot of
write a
healing
book
stories,
one
yeah.
day. And I just think that in the backdrop of everything in this story that's going on right now, that and that's going to continue here, to see, it's really beautiful. Even though at this point you're still maybe reverting back to, I'm going to be right with God by working and doing these
absolutely.
things. Seeing Chad walk the track, doing ministry for the Lord, certainly part of you is doing this to honor the Lord, even if you find out later it was a little misplaced or off.
Yeah.
There's such a beauty in this already, as I imagine you guys doing, kicking devils out of people and praying for people and ministering. I think that's awesome. But we continue the story here. So you are you're eventually in leadership in these prison ministries. You have a couple of years go by.
Until
Was there anything super significant in the first couple of years that we need to hit on, or is it fast forward to?
no, I mean just really more of the same.
You're corresponding with your wife?
Corresponding with my wife.
How often?
I'm talking to her. I call her 3 times a week. She can't call me. I can only call her.
You didn't know at this point that she had made this sort of interval that she was waiting 3 years, or did you?
I didn't know about the 3 years until I got home.
Okay.
Which is cool. It was cool to learn that. It was so exciting to learn that. Wow, God just did that one big time. That was God was all over that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, really for 3 years or almost 3 years before parole, it was just more of the same. I mean, ministry ramped up. There was just prison is a breeding ground for ministry, as you can only imagine.
Yeah.
Demonic, oppressed, and just so many different, so much evil that is formulating all the time.
Yeah.
But there was over 100 of us Christian brothers, and I'm not the only one that was doing. There was several people that were ministering and walking the track with guys and leading people to Jesus and get them to come to church, where they can experience worship for the first time and
Growing in their discipleship.
And we just we developed a lot of our own programs and curriculums just to how to minister to guys, and guys became hungry for it. You have 3 hours out on the yard in the afternoon, and you can't. I mean, a lot of guys work out for 3 hours, but it's a long time to do stuff.
To work out.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And so, but you can minister while you're doing push-ups around the track. I mean,
Sure.
just all the conversations were about Jesus almost all the time, and I've never had that in my life.
That's incredible.
And so I say that because there are parts of me that up until this group that we're in kind of missed that fellowship, missed that strong brotherhood that was developed there.
Yeah.
So much so that when I got home, there was like a big part of me missing. I'm missing my friends. I'm missing the guys that I was incarcerated with. We were doing life together
Real
in pain.
relationships.
It's probably the first season of life, real season of life that you experienced where you were truly walking in true fellowship and you're really encountering the Lord. like that probably felt weird to like want to go back to that.
Yeah, because for one, I mean, other responsibilities. There's nothing in your way. There's nothing else to really allocate your time.
Right.
If you want Jesus all day, you get Jesus all day.
Yep.
That's just that simple.
That's how.
Were you able to hide the reason that you were in there the whole time?
No, I was straightforward. Well, here's the thing: Newberry is made up of general population and sex offenders. It's half and half.
Okay.
And so that was grace itself.
Okay.
That I got to go to a treatment unit, they call it, where there's
Right.
programming and classes.
Yeah.
Some hardcore offenders and just
So
some,
you didn't
you
just
know,
get stuck in like I'm like 1% of the population.
No,
and
no,
you're
we
like-
were
Survival was
We were
better
half.
chances of
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like it was not a really dangerous place for me to be because
Okay.
I got Christian brothers quick, and some of these guys
Yeah.
were big. Some of these guys were guys that already versed on the compound,
Yeah.
done a lot of time.
Yep.
People know who they are. It was easy for me to get connected with the right people at the right time.
Cool.
And so the one time that some
Praise
opposition
God.
came my way, some racial thing happened that was all made up. But long story short, there's some big guys who had my back, and like
Yeah.
all they gotta do is look at these guys and like, okay, it's done, like it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So never got pressed, never got beat up,
Mm.
never got none of that. It was God by design put me in a place where I think He knew that the ministry that was in my heart could still take place. The kicker is Chad was still
Martha.
Martha.
Yeah.
Still Martha. I mean, I did have some merry times with the Lord for sure.
Okay.
What Chad needed to do was to be sorry to Jesus for what I did,
Yeah, that's-
not just to my wife and my family and to
That's-
everybody
that's what I
else.
wanted to get to. So up to this
And
point,
I was not
Genuine
there.
repentance.
up
Yes.
to this point,
Yeah.
it's all been confession,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's all been confession. You've owned your sin.
Yeah.
You are reaping the consequences.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the consequences inside your marriage, inside
Yeah.
your family. You're dealing with sin. You're going through all these things, but still all just been confession. You have not hit yet repentance, where it's
Yeah.
not Chad, but Jesus will, right? Not me,
Right.
God.
Like, so the way I would say it is I wasn't completely broken at that time.
Yeah.
There was still a part of me wanting to be upright. The flesh in me was still wanting to stand when God really wanted to just crush me and crush everything out of me. This is how awesome our God is. He will still use us in our sin. He'll
Yeah.
use us in our complacency. He'll use us how long that lasts.
Right.
You know, I wasn't ministering from an empty cup this time. That is the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I still didn't get stuffed down in here deep as what God was really wanting to put a finger on.
Yeah.
You know, you can get your hands on porn in prison. It's floating all over the place. I didn't have a desire for it. Honestly, the whole time, it was not anything that I was longing for. And I think a lot of that is the absence of women in the compound. When all you get to look at is dudes, like it just.
Yeah.
I think that
Out of sight, out of mind.
yeah, that appetite was just suppressed.
Sure.
You know, even like for my wife, it was just suppressed. I think by the grace of God, it was suppressed.
Yeah.
I didn't need that. I didn't. It wasn't a season where I was longing for that or using that for stress relief or
Right.
whatever. You know, insecurity. But ministry was like, it was all day, every day. It was so amazing to be able to be incarcerated and to not only have a band of brothers like we had, but to even have COs and officers turn a blind eye to some of the things. You're not supposed to touch people. I mean, slain in the spirit, that's happened a few times, and they like, what the heck just happened?
Right.
They see on the cameras this guy falling down, you know, and they come like, what's going on? Like, God did it, you know, and they buy it. Like it.
Yeah.
So they were watching what was going on enough to like, okay, this is making a positive influence on this compound.
Right.
It's something good is spreading, making their job easier.
Guys are being transformed.
Yeah, and making their job easier. And I think most of them really had a had a respect for it and I think kind of a curiosity, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
So things are going pretty well, as far as it could be, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of shows your heart for ministry, that you're still just, you're as far as I mean, you're doing what you can do. You're serving the Lord, and you a lot of these things you realize in hindsight. So at the time, you're just doing what you think you're supposed to be doing, but you needed another experience. You needed an encounter of sorts, and it was a breaking. Is kind of maybe the word that I think that you used, and crushing
really,
and a pressing down. So
yeah.
tell us when that happened.
Okay, so when I went up to the parole board, meet the parole board for the first time,
After how many years?
after almost 3 years, 2
Okay.
years and 9 months.
Okay.
And I thought I had this in the bag. Here's a model prisoner with no tickets, no misconducts, no fights, great rapport, even honestly a friendship with a lot of officers secretly, just great rapport.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, I've done the homework, I've done the self-help, I got this parole plan I put together, I've had people who know, help me put this plan together, and I'm like, this is going to stick. And then, I was really into this name it, claim it theology at that time, which is kind of detrimental too. And so me and some of the brothers were declaring my parole honestly, as if that's how that works.
Right.
And so no weapons formed against me are going to prosper. So the board's going to see Jesus in me, and it's just going to be a sure win.
Sure.
A lot of guys, when they get their parole, they hear about it in the first week. Some guys wait months. Everything that I was told from officers and stuff, when 3 weeks had went by and I wasn't hearing, I say it doesn't sound good. If they're taking this long, they are really debating. What I didn't know is that 3 to 15, 3 years is a pretty small penalty for, and it was a plea deal at that. So it was a pretty small penalty for my crime. I didn't really know that until I got continued. And I think that may be one of the reasons. They just thought I needed to do more time.
Continued meaning you didn't get your parole.
Yeah, they call it a flop. So I didn't get my parole.
Yeah.
When I got the report, it was parole denied and a continuance,
Did they give
which
you
is 1 year.
1 year. Okay,
1
so
year.
they gave you a period of time.
But
Yeah.
you're already at about 3
Almost
years
3.
now, and
Yes.
your wife's waiting.
Oh, kids are
time.
waiting. Everybody is waiting for Chad
But
to come home.
she's done after 3 years.
Yeah.
How did she respond to your being continued?
She, for lack of a better word, she was crushed as well.
Yeah.
My parents were crushed. I mean, there was tearful conversations, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of, I definitely had my David moments. I think she had her David moments, just kind of crying out.
Anger towards the system.
The system, I think, more than anything, but even at God, honestly, really, even
well,
mad
because
that
you
God wouldn't let me go home.
declared it to be, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen.
Yeah, so why wouldn't it be?
then
What didn't work?
What didn't work?
Now was it my faith?
By all accounts, you've done what you needed to do. It felt like,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. This I'm gonna go home. This is
Yeah.
surely they will not continue me. And when I got it, I'm like, okay, something's wrong. How do I fight this? How do I?
Yeah.
How do I?
Did you appeal?
I did not appeal.
Okay.
No, I did not appeal. I had two brothers in particular that had gone through it before me, both model Christian guys who should have went home and did not. Both did way more time than me. I watched them grieve and I watched them handle it. So I had some example of how a Christian should handle it. It just didn't feel like I could handle it as good as they did. And so thank God that their story was already ministering to me. Like they were an example. A good friend of mine who I'm still in touch with today named Matt, he experienced it first. And I watched the pain cycle, and then I watched the grace kind of just kick in and watched him really press in hard to find out from God why he's still there. Because surely there's a reason. Somebody's not ready. Something's not ready. There's something that's got to happen. And I don't know what it was for him, but I know in short time God revealed to me because I began to press in. I had my moments of yelling and being angry at God and just being able to cry out to people. And then in a few short days, God really softened my heart and made it. made it very known to me why I'm still there.
Mm. And how would you articulate that?
And like I was alluding to earlier, I was not sorry.
Yeah.
I was not repentant, truly. I was not really letting go to God. It was easy to be sorry to everybody else that I hurt. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a position where I'm at the lowest place you could go.
Yeah.
Only place you can go is up.
Yeah.
So why not just be that vulnerable person to your family and say, I was a piece of garbage to do what I did. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I had that part down.
Yeah.
But I never did that to Jesus himself.
Yeah.
Instead, I just busied myself with more ministry.
When
And
you-
so my
ahead.
first real Mary moment happened after probably, I would say, the darkest moment. I think that was, for me, on a pain level, was the worst.
Wow.
Because I'd just done 3 years. I'd done what I was supposed to do. I should be going home. And I was so set on it
Yeah.
that I think that was just one of the most crushing moments that I think it was more painful than actually leaving the home and going to prison.
Wow.
When they
But you,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
But you, it was right after that moment that you had it's pain through the night, but joy's in the morning. Like you had
Yeah.
the Mary moment right after that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give some?
So yeah,
What did that look
really
like?
once God revealed to me, once I knew in my heart while I was still there, I pretty much dropped everything I was doing. And I told guys, I'm like, look, I'm sitting church out. I'm sitting Bible study out. I said, this is me and Jesus right now. I don't want to minister right now. I don't have it in me.
Right.
You know, I'd be faking it if I was.
You kind of just.
I was honest.
I need to just sit at his feet. Right.
Yeah,
now.
I just need to do that. And I did. And so I would spend hours in the yard praying. I'd be on my knees in the middle of the yard. And that wasn't uncommon for people to do, but it was for me.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to waste my time praying when I got ministering to do?
Yeah. You're like, I got
Yeah.
people to.
I got people to save here.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
did you what changed, or if anything, in the first 3 years as you got kind of assimilated into this thing and you're doing a lot of ministry and a lot of leadership, you were doing all those things, but then in this last not getting continued, now you have this broken moment with the Lord, true repentance. You're like Mary at his feet, just being with him, and now you're praying a lot in the yard. Is that a big difference than the first 3 years? Like you were a different.
The prayer was
Chad,
the prayer
or
was different.
The prayer was
Absolutely.
different.
The
So
prayer
you're
was
still doing a lot of ministry. I think maybe you even.
Well, I ramped up again, but
Okay.
at this point, I was not ministering to anybody. Just to I was ministering to Jesus. That is
on.
it. Him and him alone.
Yeah.
And that's
You just knew this is what I need. I'm at the
absolutely.
well that I need to drink
Yeah,
from, and I'm
absolutely.
staying here.
and he was
Yeah.
offering me that. Jesus was offering me that drink the whole time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't mad at me because I was ministering. I'm sure it was pleasing to him, but he still wanted Chad's heart. You know,
wanted to
I
know
got
you.
his heart. I got everybody else's heart, but I need your heart.
Yeah.
And the only way I can do that is to
Yeah.
just crush you.
Yeah.
You know,
We talked about
the-
this.
you didn't learn going to prison. You didn't learn. You didn't learn from this. You didn't learn from this.
He's like, Chad, I just want to know you.
yeah.
And repentance draws us into intimacy. We've talked about
yeah.
this before,
Yeah.
but he wants to pull you in to that intimate place. He wants intimacy with
Yeah.
you, and repentance is just a straight shot in.
Yeah.
In your marriage too, but that repentant heart draws you in
Yeah.
to that place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it shuts out all the noise.
Come on.
If that's how I can explain it, when it's just you and Jesus, and at that point nothing else really matters but ministering to Him and trying to saturate in your heart everything that He wants for you in those moments, to prepare you for what He's got for you. I thought I was being prepared for more ministry. I really thought that's what was happening this whole time. Like this was school,
Yeah.
and God's got plenty of people working for Him.
Yeah.
So if Chad's not working for Him, He's probably okay with it.
Yeah.
He just wants to know me and to love me and to have
That's
that
so
reciprocated,
good.
and that was what it took. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't take that, but nothing can convince me that there's another reason why I was there. I don't know how God did it. I don't know who He used, how it orchestrated, but He knew
Yeah.
that I needed that. And if I didn't get that, and my family didn't experience the pain that come from that, I wouldn't be who I am today in
Right.
the home now.
Yeah.
I would still be that same guy that I was.
Yeah.
Do I wrestle with the old Chad flesh? Absolutely.
Sure.
But the heart knows it now.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Did you ever get to a point, you know, when you were in that kind of pocket of presence with the Lord? Did you ever get to the point where you were like, you know what? Kind of like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego with the going into the furnace,
Yeah.
like, even if I do this full 15 years, like, Lord, I'm fully yours. Like, did you ever have that?
Not to that extreme, but
You're still like, I need to get out of
Yeah.
Lord, get me out.
Yeah.
but really, if I'm sitting this out, if I'm done being busy for now, however long this season you got me in is, to be honest and very transparent, the thought of just ministering to Jesus alone for the next year almost sounded torturous. Like it was, just to be real. Like
Sure.
this is
No.
what I know. Like I know this is how.
I need to be doing
Why
more.
why can't I do these things?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
why aren't
Yeah.
you know why do you have me here at your feet? And
That's-
so
So, piggybacking kind of off of Noah's question. So, did you, and you just said for the next year, did you know that when they continued you, was it, there's another year until you're up for probation again? Was that clearly communicated to you?
yeah.
Or that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
that's what was communicated?
There are circumstances that you can go early.
So, but you, in your mind, you're having these moments, you've had this encounter, you're intimate with the Lord in a way that you hadn't been before, but you're thinking up for parole in X amount of months from this point forward, and there's another period of hope, point of hope, like a point in time that
Yeah.
you're hoping for. Please,
but
Lord.
not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee, but you were like, okay, up for parole, and
Yeah.
again.
So approaching that was with a different mindset. I don't want to
Okay.
get into this part a lot, but
Okay.
I know one of the things that God wanted removed from me
Yeah.
was the word of faith theology that I was really deep in, and not all of it was bad, but I was really deep into name it, claim it,
Sure.
really
Sure.
really bad,
Right.
Yeah.
and God uses
It's a
he-
trap. We could
he-
talk about that on another podcast.
Right,
'Cause
right, yeah.
I get it.
Oh
I
yeah,
can speak to
and I
that
was
too.
stuck in it bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what
Yeah,
I'd
it's a
learned,
trap.
it's what I had read, I taught, and so I was in it bad, and it wasn't until I got real with Jesus that.
Yeah.
So it's the moment in the garden where he says, take this cup from me, nevertheless, not my will, but your be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that before. I didn't say those words. Like there is no, maybe it's your will that I stay here. It was never that for me. It was, I know this is your will because you're good and this is good. So for me to
Yeah.
go home is good.
Ah.
And so that's where my mind was
Yeah.
at. And I know that now that was
You
stench.
connected
That was
dots for the
stench.
Lord.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so my attitude now going forward from that was like, okay, I see now this is not how God works. Clearly, because I didn't go home. So going forward, the next it was 9 months that I got released, but that parole situation was a whole lot different. I think they actually got to see the humility in me for the first time. I don't think they saw it the first time. I think they saw this guy's confident, maybe a little arrogant, like he's got it in the bag and he knows it.
Could Jamie see it when they're in that after the 3 years, but between the 3 years and your second time up for probation, you have this encounter. Could she see a change in you? Were you talking to her like, "Hey, babe, I found something I didn't have before"?
So the cool part of your question, the cool part of the answer is that God was dealing with her heart the same thing.
Wow.
Word of faith was being pulled off of her too, because she too was helping speak over this parole, and it didn't happen. And she came on her own without even knowing that I was in this conclusion that this is where there's more to God than just this lottery that I'm playing. It was God was already doing that in her heart. And so when we actually had the conversation on a visit, it was such an aha moment for both of us to be
Wow.
on the same page together in
So
that
cool.
thought.
Yeah.
And that really made those months fly, knowing that God was preparing something more in me. And she knew it because there was, I think, more of a softness and more of a genuineness to listen to her instead of wanting to minister to her every time she came to the visit room. Like, this is what I'm learning.
That's what I was looking
This is what
for.
I'm learning. This is what
That's
I'm doing.
amazing,
This is
yeah.
where God's got us. This is what
I love
God's going to
that.
do.
It's
in the
humility.
I love
man.
that.
And-
It's humility.
And I think she finally saw that because I didn't know how painful it was for her to hear constantly all the great things that God is doing and how much I want to do these great things when I get out, knowing all the pain that has already caused.
Because in her mind, ministry in Chad equal pain for her.
Absolutely, 100%.
And so
Yeah.
how did that conversation kind of after getting out? Like, was that a conversation you had? Like, hey, I'm not gonna do this again. Like, was that ever a?
Well, so
Well, go ahead.
when I got out, I was still thinking that God's gonna do something, but I had already downshifted so far that I didn't have any aspirations of being a pastor. I didn't have any aspirations. I mean, halfway in, I was going to start a church when I got out. I was going to start a church in Ionia, and it was going to be for a lot of broken, messed up people. It was going to be it was going to be at the fairgrounds. Like, I had this plan, and like, it sickened her to hear all this.
Sure.
Like, this is going to pull you away from me again.
I can understand
Yeah.
that.
But I couldn't see it. I'm like, how can you not be excited about this? I got this vision from God, and
She's like, I don't
blah,
want
blah,
Super
blah.
Chad back.
no, and
But that was kind of gone after. So you
Yes.
got up for probation the second time.
yeah,
They could see the humility. We think something happened.
Something
the Lord,
happened,
the
yeah.
Lord had you released.
yeah.
You come back here. You're not aspiring to start a church
I-
anymore.
No, I couldn't even, because of child contact regulations during my first 2 years of parole.
Okay.
Church was a dangerous place for me. Now I could get permission from my parole officer, but I have to. If a child shakes my hand, a teenager shakes my hand, that's contact. I am now
Can't do that in 2 years. First 2 years.
can't. I'm obligated now to report that, and I have. Even like my own kids, I couldn't see for 9 months. That's a whole nother story that
Yeah.
is a big part of the testimony. But so church was not really in the cards for me when I got out. So it was the disciplines that I learned in the last year were carrying over. In the room I was at my parents' house, I couldn't go home, so I was at my parents' house for almost 9 months, and so I was missing church, I was missing ministry, I was missing all those kind of things. But at the same time, I was working with my hands, and not only was I working with my hands, I was working for a wage I hadn't made in 20 years. And so one of the most humbling aspects of getting out was knowing all the stipulations and all the things that I'd taken for granted my whole life. I didn't have those things anymore. And so I only worked because I had somebody took a chance on me, who was self-employed. And so I'm not sure where I was going with that, other than that's how it looked.
Yeah, this is
And
just you're getting out.
But when I did get to come back here, nearly a year later, it was good just to sit in his presence. It was good just to sing and worship with my wife, next to my wife, and all three of my kids were present at that time.
Wow.
So that right there, if that's all church ever was for me the rest of my life, I'm happy. Like, this is what my wife always wanted and never got, because Chad never got to worship with his wife because doing other things. And so sitting as a family in church was like a first for us.
When you first stepped foot in your house, your old house, your house with your family was there, what was that like?
Heavy tears, heavy crying.
Yeah.
Just completely overwhelmed.
Everybody?
Everybody, everything. So I've been able to see my wife at this point. So we were like going on dates, and she's had a couple sleepovers at my parents. But seeing my kids in the home was, for the first time in my life, I knew that I didn't deserve this gift. I didn't deserve to step foot in this house. I didn't deserve to be called dad. Like, those are things that I really thought that I was owed or I deserved at one point in my life. Like, it was taken for granted. And when you don't have those things, and when you have to fight and work so hard to get those back,
Major priority shift.
oh my gosh. And it just caused me to see my kids in a way that even through the visits and stuff, I just wasn't seeing them like I saw them in our home environment. And it wasn't rainbows and unicorns right off the bat. There was tension. There was jealousies. I was taking time away from the kids with with Jamie, and vice versa. And there was a lot of things to work through. It was strenuous.
They had learned to do life without you.
Yeah,
So,
everybody did.
yeah.
So it was quite
change.
strenuous, actually.
Yeah.
And the old me festered a few times, and then Jamie's left with, did you really change? And Whereas this guy today, kind of thing, because the world gets a hold of you, the job, all the stresses of life, those weren't with me in prison. So it was easy
Right.
to be, Mr. Godly all day long.
Back to, yeah.
But so here's the reality: if you can't be a Christian in prison, you will never make it as a Christian in the world. Never, never, never,
Yeah.
never.
Yep.
And I will tell anybody that,
Yeah.
because it was easy to follow
You
Christ
said
in
the
prison.
same
I say the exact same thing about Teen Challenge, which I have always so wonderfully dubbed the Pentecostal Penitentiary. And it is the same way. Like if you I just was there a couple weeks ago ministering with Pastor John at Teen Challenge, and
Yeah.
I told them that like
Wow.
if you can't figure it out here, like getting out's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
Because this is the easy place to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, just to your point, that
Yeah, for sure.
so
It's-
true.
Man, and I honestly, I don't think I even realized it. Like, I'm not saying it's hard to be a Christian now,
Right.
but man, it just
The
I didn't know-
challenges
yeah.
are different. The
It's just
time
different.
management is different.
And then how I had to choose how I reacted to the treatment of the state on my parole. My parole was not by any stretch easy. It was 2 years long. I was tethered. Anytime you spend more than a few minutes by a school on a job or something, you beep, and like there's just so many things that come along with the stigma of just being a felon and and a sexual offender. The stigma with that, and then family and dealing with people giving you a piece of their mind, and unforgiving family, and there's so many elements to coming home that honestly I didn't see. I didn't see those things, and all that to say is that if God hadn't done what He did in my heart in that last year, I think the pride would have came out of me, and I would have just said, "To heck with all you guys," and I don't need your love. I don't need your forgiveness. I don't need any of that. Instead, I really was quite putty in the hands of anybody who wanted to embrace me, and it was very different for me, and I think that's maybe how I really knew that God had done work in me.
Yeah.
I was was holding on to unforgiveness to people who couldn't forgive me, as if they didn't have a right to not forgive me. I was that way for a long time in prison, and that was one of the defining moments of that last year as well, is letting go of those trespasses on other people that I thought that they should be loving on me and want me to come home, and it was the opposite with some people.
That's such a cool realization when
Yeah.
you're like, I'm different now, and you can't tell me I'm not, because I'm
I feel it.
something's
Yeah.
I just am. I
Yeah.
embody Christ in a way that I haven't before, and I've let this go, or I behave different, react differently to this thing, and that's incredible, man. That's a beautiful
not
realization.
defending yourself is key
Yeah.
to survival
And
post incarceration.
that
It just
was
is.
you mentioned kind of the fear of man root that you had so deep
Yeah.
within you, where you cared so deeply
Yeah.
about what people thought of you,
Yeah.
and that was probably a portion of that breaking off your life. Like
Absolutely.
you're like, I am at peace if people don't
Yeah.
give me what I think I should deserve, as far as like forgiveness
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more freeing things that happened in me internally. My wife could even attest to it.
Wow.
When I'm not caught up on people not liking me, neighbors not liking me, people being fearful of me. I mean, it's people are talking and all these things. It wasn't terrible. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought maybe it was going to be. But at the same time, I had chances to defend myself, chances to get my guard up, get my heckles up, and I didn't succeed every time, but 9 times out of 10 I did, and every time that I did, I noticed it. Like, wow, that I know what I would have done even 2 years ago. I would have got defensive and said, okay, I don't need you. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Or I would do everything I could to get in your graces so that you would like me, regardless of what I did.
Yeah.
And that is a freeing thing when you no longer care how people are feeling about you. Everybody wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be liked, and that's very natural. I want to be liked now, but I'm not gonna get hung up on somebody who gets hung up on me. I'm just not gonna.
Well, now everybody's gonna like us no matter what our stuff is,
Right.
our track record. I think it's really interesting as I'm listening to you talk. A lot of people restoration to us is first restoration to the Lord. Obviously, there's no restoration without that, and then to people, and there's forgiveness involved. But a step further in your story is just hearing all this and thinking about you're back in the real world after that fall, and you are handed responsibility. You're handed, opportunities to encounter obstacles, and how are you going to respond to it? Are you going to be Christ in this thing? And I just think that is significant. It's significant that the Lord's. A lot of people, I think, that go to prison. Yours wouldn't have been a life sentence, but I just think people will settle with restoration to the Lord. I've forgiven everybody. I'm good. But He's got more use for you. He's letting you be useful with responsibilities and proving your faith and proving your Christ-likeness and your love to people, in just the real world.
Yeah.
And I just think that is a significant thing for His plan and purpose for your life. Still having a lot of years left and being out and having your family, and your story's not done. It seems clear to me, and it's an honor to have these responsibilities and to be useful for the Lord, and to do it from the right heart and right motive now, and as He's transformed you from that Martha Chad now into a Mary Chad, but can serve Him from the right place. I think it's really cool, man. Our testimonies are never done. I think about testimonies, like mine's
ongoing.
This is what the Lord's done for me. All this season was hard, and this is what the Lord's doing for me. And so your testimony, this isn't, it's not done yet, and it's just going to get, more. Ministry. I was telling somebody in our church this recently. He's like, I went to school for ministry, and I'm working in this secular place. And I was like, well, don't despise small beginnings. Don't look past this season, because when you want to step into this full-time office, you're literally your job is to tell people to do what you're doing right now, which is to be a minister in the marketplace and the workforce. Yeah. So that's what, a large part of what the office is, people that work on staff at churches are doing. It's like, hey guys, be the ministry in the real world. Yeah. And so I think, and I see, just hearing your story all along, it's like, man, Chad loves ministry. You love to see the Lord work in people's lives. Yeah. Whatever reasons were there, good, bad, all along, that have changed and whatnot, So I'm saying a lot here, but I just think it's, it's your story is to be continued, and
I think
wonderful things ahead.
I think I have one last question for
you,
maybe, and that is, we've gotten to see a lot of the restoration in your family, your marriage, ministry. We've got the joy of even doing music with you. Yeah. You're being blessed in the marketplace with work. Yeah. That life wheel is turning again. How are you protecting your time with the Lord? How are you making the first thing and protecting that one thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not to make it a religious thing, but a discipline that I learned, especially in that last year of prison, that continuance. First thing I do is just like Pastor John, honestly, I get up an hour earlier than I have to. Sometimes an hour and a half earlier than I even have to. If I want to get quiet time with Him in my home, even though I only have 2 kids left in the house,
it's got to be early.
It's got to be early.
Amen.
It's got to be early. I like to be up early anyways, and so my mind and my head is clear. My heart is. I think what better way to listen than to wake up from sleep. I have nothing that is worn on me all day long. I'm fresh. I'm new. The mercy is new on me already. It's just the best time to really minister to God and allow Him to minister to me. Yeah. And I can't imagine. I've carried this discipline since I've been home, in the 5 years I've been home now. Sometimes I miss it on the weekends. I'm a little careless maybe, but the weekdays, I can't imagine starting my work day without it. Because I can feel sometimes the stress of the day within 2 hours already pulling on me, whether it be a customer, whether it be a job, whether it be something that maybe I'm unsure of, and having that reminder, you just read this, or I just told you this, or you just saw this, or you just ministered to me, and now you're gonna let this fly off your tongue. You know what I mean? Just those reminders, like, so it's like checkpoints throughout the day that he gives me that keeps me on that track.
Yeah.
That discipline that I learned, I didn't have that. Even as a pastor, I didn't have that discipline.
Yeah.
Just didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't think I needed it. And I love being in the Word first thing in the morning. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Amen.
I know a lot of Christian men don't read their Bible. I love reading the Bible. I don't know what it is. And now that I've watched The Chosen, I've like
Yeah.
it's just
bread.
it's
Yeah.
just
Daily bread.
it's just playing in my mind.
The Pastor Noah, why don't you ask if do you have any one closing question? Then I've got one if you after you or if you don't.
I don't know if I have like a closing question, but just to, kind of support your statement, like there is really no life in Christianity outside of fellowship and communion with him.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing that above all the things that you took away, from your time, in prison and doing ministry stuff, but you took the discipline of fellowship with you, and that has kept you. Would you say that like that has been probably the main thing that has kept you like in this place of health, honestly, spiritual health? Would you agree with that?
Fellowship with him.
Yeah, fellowship with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've learned too that fellowship with him, when it's sincere and genuine and real, makes fellowship with your brothers so much stronger.
Yeah.
When you can start seeing the Christ in your brothers, because I know Jesus, I know what he looks like now.
Yeah.
Now I can see him in other people.
Wow.
And that's been huge for me. And so seeing Jesus all around me in different people through different giftings and things like that, just something I couldn't recognize before.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
good.
very sustaining. Pastor John beats it up all the time how important belonging to the body of Christ is, and more importantly, not more importantly, but just as important, being inside his house.
Yeah.
The several months that I wasn't in church, not only was it foreign to me, but at the same time, it caused so much more intentionality on my end, because I wasn't getting the spiritual high that, being in his presence. It's a lot harder to be in his presence sometimes on your own than it is because God shows up here every week. Like it's
Then corporately. Right.
Yeah. So corporate
It's a
work,
prepared environment here. Yeah.
and so when you're in that, and I think people are lying when they say they don't need to experience that, because I think that you really do need to experience that.
Yeah, for sure.
If I didn't experience that in prison, I think it would have been a much different thing for me.
Yeah.
His presence really is everything when it comes to the genuineness of your walk and your pursuit. I want to say one thing in closing too, because I feel like I need to say this.
Yeah.
So most of my life, I could not appreciate the gift in somebody else. In sports, I've been second string. On worship teams, I've been second string. I've always wanted to be the best or the first picked.
Yeah.
Always wanted to be that kid. It was never me.
Yeah.
And I know now that God was always trying to humble me. The first shall be last shall be first kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't appreciate the gift in somebody else. Another drummer, I couldn't appreciate the gift. Another communicator. Other than Pastor Phil, I could appreciate his gift because we were close. But man, if somebody else, some guest speaker gave a message, and they were young and doing what I'm doing, and I knew they were like clearly better than me at it, like there's this jealousy and insecurity that would rise up, and this So just to be 100 with you, I think you're amazing. And when I listen to you now, I'm thinking, man, there's such a grace on your life to preach.
Yeah.
And not only just communicate, but to actually preach. And, some people teach when they are behind the pulpit, some preach. You let it fly. And I'm not saying that's a lot of that's just your character, your style. It's just you and how he's graced you. But I can tell you that a half decade ago, I would have been so envious of you and your successes in this ministry and how God's using you that I wouldn't have been able to appreciate the gift in you. I would have heard you on Sunday, and I'd have been so filled with envy that I'm not that guy. That's just where my heart was at.
Wow.
And that transpired, so much in my life, in the workplace, and I'm free from that now.
Man,
like
wow.
I love being able to appreciate the gift in another drummer.
Yeah.
That's something I definitely couldn't do before. I love being able to
Yeah.
appreciate the gift in a minister. It's like I don't even know how I got to that spot where I couldn't.
Yeah.
But now that I can, it's like, why doesn't everybody appreciate these?
Yeah.
Why doesn't
It's pride, man.
it,
When
it,
falls
pride?
off and you take it.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Thank
I mean,
you.
It's,
Thank you.
yeah.
by the
It's
way.
it's a
That
lot
means
that
so much.
you can air that out, man. That says a
Yeah.
lot. So my closing question is kind of twofold. So what would you tell the guys that listened and stuck it out with us, that are struggling with things that are buried, sin that is buried, that they have not brought to light?
Yeah.
They think they've got it. They think it's going to be okay. They're trying to cover it up with control and with works. What do you say? It should have already been said, but to say it directly to them, what would you say to them? And then the second, actually, I'm going to ask one more question after that. So you speak to that first.
All right. Well, that one, it's actually quite easy. Tell somebody. Tell a brother. This setting here, this small group setting we have. I mean, I've been on different tables and I have seen people open up.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea they were dealing with that.
Yeah.
They had no idea I was dealing with that. And those opportunities,
Yeah.
you got to take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how can you hide in this place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can anybody hide in here?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love that
has
you
to
said that. Yeah, come to listen. This podcast
Come
is
to
for
men's group.
restore. This listen. This podcast
plug.
is this podcast. Chad did not get paid for that. I do not get paid if you come to Restore Men's. But what we want to do is at Restore Men's, our monthly group is exactly that, man. Like it's the nights are set up strategically to get to that place. We're honoring the Lord in His Word, and we're worshiping Him in song, and then the corporate presence is just tangible in a different way, like you just said. And then we get to talk to each other, and it's our opportunity. Sometimes we're not going through stuff, but sometimes we are. And when you are, come here. And our last meeting that we had, at the time of this recording, we went through an exercise where we wrote our sins on a stone, and then we turned it upside down where we didn't see them, but we had written somebody else's sins or offenses on top of it, and we can see that, and so we set up a culture to where we're not going to throw that stone, because if we throw that stone, meaning criticizing or judging people for being sinful or struggling with something or having sin, we're releasing on that stone our own sins and judgment as well. So my point is this, that to Chad's point, is that this culture that we've got here, even though it's a smaller men's group, is that of one where we can come safely, bring our things to light, because nobody has stones to throw here.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really well said, Chad. And so lastly, as we wrap this up, you have a heart. You have a heart for the men, the brothers that are still incarcerated.
Yeah.
What's your heart for?
So
What are your thoughts in this season on ministry to them or support for them?
So God has been working with me, dealing with my heart on this a lot. The flesh in me has trying to for months and trying to conjure up some kind of prison ministry. Like, I have to do prison ministry. How can I not? Because I was incarcerated, kind of thing. And I was feeling that way for the longest time. And I think because of that, I wasn't getting vision. I wasn't getting ideas. It was still me wanting to create something. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to be organic. Sure. And God's really been dealing with me about something that I've already been doing. Like, so I've had a pen pal ministry on my own that I've been writing guys through a system called JPay. It's an email system, and there's two brothers right now who are incarcerated, one on a second time, and he had burned his bridges, and I get to write to him, and he gets to glean from whatever God deposits in my letters to him.
Okay.
And it is right now, other than being a dad and soon to be a grandpa, one of the most rewarding things I'm doing is ministering to these guys through communication on email, because I might be the only person that they're hearing from. Yeah. So without getting too deep into it, I have watched grown, tough, tattooed men stream in tears when they go to the kiosk 3 times a day.
Wow.
in the the congregate area, and they log in and there's no messages. Day after day, no messages. The mail comes. Chad gets mail. This guy down below, he never gets mail. And he's
hard, man.
And he's verbally communicating how distraught he is and stressed and upset. Yeah. And so communication to guys on the inside might just be one of the most
Like a real
life-giving
real
things
lifeline,
that you
yeah.
can do
Wow.
for somebody who is,
Yeah.
because there's so many people who have burned bridges. I had support because I just have that family that didn't give up on me. Not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And guys that I've been in twice, I mean, most people are like, okay, you made your bed this time. You got to write it out yourself.
Yeah.
And no, there is some truth to that. And there's some tough love disciplines to that.
Sure.
I don't think anybody deserves to be without communication. It's one thing to talk to your brothers on the inside, but when you get a glimpse from somebody that's doing life on the outside, and the thought of them taking time to get on their phone, go on the app, and even type a 3-sentence message, just can make someone's day. It can make someone's their whole bit. Like it's a really huge thing. And I guess I thought it was a small thing. And so if I'm being real, I was battling with, okay, this is not enough ministry. This is not, anybody can do this. Anybody can start this. It's not big enough. And I think that's where God was putting a finger on it. No, this is enough. You don't need to do any more than that. Just have guys who feel like maybe God is impressing upon them to communicate with somebody they don't even know, and minister the love of God to them. Man, what a cool way to do ministry and not really have to sacrifice anything.
So you're gonna
minutes a week.
You're kind of heading. You're kind of creating connections there. You
Yes.
want to connect people with this program,
Yes.
which then probably will connect them with an incarcerated
Yeah.
brother and
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
yeah, that's cool. And,
I have a
and
list of prison numbers right now.
Okay.
A contact
Awesome.
list.
so what we're gonna do is, and we're gonna give you some time at our next men's group to a few minutes to kind of speak into that and that way we can get some guys
Okay.
signed up for
Yeah.
that, because it just makes me think of, and I think I'm very confident in saying when Jesus said, those that visited those in
Matthew 25,
prison
yeah.
did it to me, that
Yeah.
this certainly qualifies. When
Yeah.
you see a
Okay.
guy in tears because he's not getting correspondence, then that's somebody the Lord wants to, reach and touch, and this
Yeah.
is obviously a way to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So,
That's so beautiful.
wow.
Thank you, Chad.
Chad Apsey's testimony.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
you
Thanks for
guys.
being so open and real. And this is the beautiful thing about this, is that we can get this out there and keep it out there so that nobody missed, the night you spoke it, you shared it, and we'll get some people signed up to write those guys in prison.
Thanks for putting up with my lack of brevity. That's not a gift. That's not a gift of mine.
You did great, man.
This is. I
I
think
am a
this is a
talker.
great
Yeah.
like type of platform to share a story like
Yeah.
that, because like I wouldn't if I were a listener, I wouldn't have wanted to miss any of that. Like I think so much everything of what you shared was
Yeah.
like so vital to the story. So like
Yeah.
I think we're coming up in like 2 hours here,
Yeah.
but like I know people will listen to the full thing.
Yeah.
Like
It's
Yeah.
easy to
that's-
digest when it's a conversation. So,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
Restore Men's Podcast.
Yeah.
Chad Apsey's testimony.
Out.
See ya.
Be there. Thank you.